Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at Taylor Swift's dating history. She's been in the public eye for so long, like basically since she was a teenager, and pretty much all of her relationships have been, out there for everyone to see.
Yeah, she's really grown up in the spotlight.
For sure. So we're going to try to find some interesting patterns, or maybe see if we can connect some of her most famous songs to specific relationships. What do you think?
Sounds fun. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's rewind all the way back to 2008. The year it all began. Taylor was this, fresh-faced country darling, and she started dating Joe Jonas. Yeah, from the Jonas Brothers.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Weren't they, the teenage heartthrobs back then?
Totally. And this breakup, it was legendary. It was this whole thing about, a 27-second phone call.
Oh, yeah, the infamous phone call breakup. Brutal.
Right. And then there were all these rumors about Camilla Belle, the actress. She was in one of their music videos right after.
Yeah, Love Bug.
That's the one. And then, of course, Taylor, being Taylor, seemingly wrote a song about it.
Forever and always.
Exactly. It was a pretty direct message to Joe.
Yeah.
And I think it really resonated with a lot of fans, people who had been through similar heartbreak.
It's one of her greatest strengths, the way she can take these really personal experiences and turn them into songs that everyone can relate to.
Definitely. But it also brings up some, ethical questions too, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay to put all that out there, even if it involves other people?
It's tricky. There's always going to be that tension between an artist's need to express themselves and the privacy of the people involved. And it's interesting how she navigates that, how her approach to it changes over time.
Yeah, for sure. There's another song from that same album, Speak Now, Better Than Revenge. And it seems to be about this same, love triangle situation.
It's a different vibe, for sure.
Yeah.
A little bit more, a little less forgiving than Forever and Always.
Definitely less forgiving. And there were even rumors that, this whole Joe Jonas breakup caused a rift between Taylor and her friends, Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. It's like high school drama, but on a, global scale.
Yeah, and imagine dealing with that when you're, barely out of your teens. It can't be easy.
No, not at all. And it really highlights, I think, how fame can complicate even the closest friendships.
Okay, so moving on. We've got a few more quick flings to talk about before we hit some of the more... shall we say, intense relationships. Lucas Till.
The You Belong With Me guy.
Yeah. They dated for a bit, and then there was Taylor Lautner.
From Valentine's Day.
You got it. Both of these lasted around 3 months.
Interesting. A pattern, maybe?
Maybe, right? Is there a 3-month curse going on here, or is it just a coincidence? What do you think?
She was so young, right? And her career was just, exploding at that point. Maybe it was just hard to maintain a relationship with everything else going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a sped-up version of, normal teenage dating, but with the whole world watching.
Exactly. And those early experiences, they probably shaped her views on relationships in a big way.
Okay, well, now let's jump into a relationship that definitely caused a stir. 2009. Taylor starts dating John Mayer.
Yes, John Mayer. This one was definitely a turning point.
Big time. She was 19. He was 12 years older.
Yeah, the age difference was definitely a talking point back then.
For sure. And this relationship, well, it seems to be the inspiration for one of her most emotionally raw songs, Dear John.
Oh, yeah, that one is brutal. You can just feel the heartbreak pouring out of it.
And it sparked a whole lot of controversy, too, right? People debating whether it was okay to be so specific, so revealing about a past relationship, especially when it involves someone else's feelings.
Yeah, I remember that. Mayer actually said publicly that he felt humiliated by the song.
He did. And then years later, he released his own song, Paper Doll, which some people think is his response to Dear John.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, it's this whole musical back and forth years after the relationship ended. And it really makes you think about the power of songwriting, how it can be this way to process emotions, but also to engage in this dialogue, even with someone you're not with anymore.
It's fascinating. And it definitely keeps fans totally engrossed in the whole story. It blurs the lines between what's real and what's speculation.
Totally. Okay, so speaking of relationships that are still shrouded in mystery, let's move on to Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. This one is still a fan favorite, when it comes to speculating about Taylor's songs.
It is, isn't it? Even though they were only together for, a couple of months at the end of 2010?
Yeah, something like that. But it's like, to this day, people are still trying to figure out what really went down.
And it all comes back to one song, All Too Well.
I mean, that song is epic. Like, it's 10 minutes long. And every single second is just, like, pure emotion. It's like she took every feeling, every memory from that breakup and poured it into this song.
It's definitely one of her most, like, heartbreaking songs. But it's also incredibly relatable. I think anyone who's ever been through a tough breakup can find something in those lyrics that speaks to them.
Absolutely. And then she released that short film for it a few years back with Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien. I mean, talk about, like, taking things to another level.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. That film is a masterpiece. It's like he gave the song a whole new dimension.
Yeah.
You know? Suddenly, you're not just listening to the lyrics, you're seeing them play out on screen.
It's so powerful, and it just shows, like, how much her art can impact people even years later. Like, fans are still dissecting every detail of that song in that film, looking for clues and making connections to her life.
It's amazing. And I love how she uses these, like, little symbols in her work, too, like the red scarf from All Too Well. That's become this whole iconic thing representing lost love and memories.
It's like she's created this whole mythology around her relationships, and fans are totally invested in deciphering it.
Okay, so let's move on to Connor Kennedy.
The Kennedy connection, this was 2012, right?
Yeah, summer of 2012. It was short, but definitely high profile.
For sure. I mean, dating a Kennedy, that's like stepping into American royalty. And she even bought a house near the Kennedy compound, if I remember correctly.
She did, which I think a lot of people took as a sign that, like, this one was serious.
Yeah, but it ended pretty quickly, didn't it? I think he was only 18 at the time.
He was, and there were reports that, like, he just couldn't handle all the attention, all the craziness that comes with dating Taylor Swift.
Which makes you think, you know, was her fame, her success a factor in some of these relationships ending? Like, was it just too much for some people to handle?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Like, maybe some people just couldn't keep up with her.
Right. It's like she was on this, like, rocket ship to superstardom, and not everyone could hold on for the ride.
Okay, so speaking of rockets to superstardom, let's talk about Harry Styles.
One Direction. This was peak boy band mania.
It was. This was like 2012, 2013. And the media went absolutely crazy for Haylor, as the fans called him.
Well, I remember that. It was nonstop coverage. Every photo of them together was front page news.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And there were all these rumors swirling about, like, infidelity and drama. Some people think I Knew You Were Trouble is about him.
Oh, yeah. Those lyrics are definitely fitting. Like that feeling of knowing someone is bad for you, but you can't help but be drawn to them anyway. It's a classic Taylor Swift theme.
Totally. And then there was that super awkward moment at an awards show where they were both there, and it looked like she mouthed, "Shut up," while he was on stage.
Yeah, that was rough. Like, you could just feel the tension through the TV screen. It was like the whole world was watching their every move, waiting for the next chapter to unfold.
It was intense. But you know what's interesting? Despite all of that drama, it seems like they're actually on good terms now.
Yeah, there have been, like, a few sightings of them being friendly at events. It's nice to see, you know? Like, they can acknowledge that they shared a part of their lives, even if it didn't work out.
Definitely. It shows a level of maturity for sure.
And I think it kind of sets the stage for the next phase of Taylor's dating life, where she starts to prioritize privacy a lot more.
Which leads us to Calvin Harris.
This was her longest relationship up to that point, wasn't it? Like a year and a half?
Yeah, they were together from 2015 to 2016.
It felt like a much more, like, mature relationship, you know? They were still very public, but there was this sense of stability that we hadn't really seen before.
Totally. They seemed really happy together. They were both at the top of their game professionally. They were collaborating on music. They even went to award shows together.
And they weren't shy about showing affection?
No, not at all. But then, of course, it ended, and there were rumors of, well, you know, infidelity again.
It's interesting how that seems to be a recurring theme in her relationships. Like, maybe it's something she's drawn to, or maybe it's a fear she has, you know, the fear of being betrayed.
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely makes you think about the psychology behind her songwriting, right? Like, what are the patterns, the recurring themes that she's exploring?
It's a fascinating puzzle.
Okay, so after Calvin Harris, we get to Tom Hiddleston.
The whirlwind, this one came out of nowhere.
It did. They were only together for like 3 months in the summer of 2016.
Yeah.
And it was just this explosion of, like, paparazzi photos and PDA.
Oh, yeah. Remember that I Heart TS tank top he wore?
How could I forget?
Yeah.
It was iconic. But yeah, this one fizzled out pretty quickly. And the reason seemed to be that Hiddleston just wasn't comfortable with all the media attention.
I could see that. It was a huge contrast to his, like, usual level of privacy.
Totally. And I think this relationship, as short as it was, marked a real turning point for Taylor. Like, maybe it made her realize that that level of public scrutiny just wasn't sustainable for her.
And it led her to Joe Alwyn, which was like the complete opposite in terms of privacy.
Yeah, like they basically went into hiding for the first few months of their relationship.
It was a deliberate choice, for sure. She wanted to protect that relationship from the prying eyes of the media and the fans. And it worked. For a while, at least. It did. For a long time. Like, they were together for 6 years.
6 years. That's huge. Especially for someone like Taylor, who, has had a lot of shorter relationships in the past.
It definitely suggests that she found something special with Alwyn, like a level of stability and connection that she hadn't experienced before.
Totally. And they seem to have this really strong creative partnership, too. Remember how Alwyn co-wrote some of the songs on Folklore and Evermore?
Oh, yeah, he used the pseudonym William Bowery. It's amazing how they managed to keep that a secret for so long.
Right. Like, that's a whole other level of commitment and trust.
It is. And it makes their eventual breakup in 2023 even more surprising.
I know, right? It was like out of nowhere. And they've kept the reasons for the split totally private.
Which, again, I think just reinforces her commitment to keeping her personal life out of the public eye as much as possible.
Definitely. And now we've got this whole new chapter with Travis Kelce.
A football player. No one saw that coming.
I know. It's like such an unexpected pairing. But they seem really happy together. I mean, she's been spotted at his games, and they've been seen out on dates. And she even changed some of her lyrics in concert to reference him.
Which is a pretty big deal for Taylor, right? Like, she's known for being so meticulous with her lyrics and for them being so deeply personal.
Yeah, it's definitely a sign that she's like letting her guard down a bit and just embracing this new relationship.
It's kind of refreshing to see, actually. After years of, all the drama and the scrutiny, it seems like she's found someone who makes her happy, and she's just going with it.
Yeah, it's like she's saying, you know what, I'm just going to live my life and enjoy it.
Exactly. So after all of this, after this deep dive into Taylor Swift's dating history, what are your final thoughts? What have we learned?
Well, I think it's clear that she's always evolving, both as a person and as an artist. Her relationships have definitely influenced her music, and her music has reflected her growth.
Absolutely. It's like we've watched her grow up in front of our eyes,
Right.
through her songs, through her relationships, through all the ups and downs.
And through it all, she's remained this incredibly talented and relatable figure.
I think that's why people are so fascinated by her. She's not afraid to be vulnerable, to share her heartbreaks and her triumphs. And in doing so, she creates this connection with her fans that's really special.
I agree. It's been a fascinating journey exploring her relationship history. We've seen the early flings, the high-profile romances, the heartbreak, the growth, and now this new chapter with Travis Kelce. It's a reminder that love can be unpredictable and life is full of surprises.
Definitely. And I think it leaves us with a lot to think about. What do you think, listeners? What stands out to you about Taylor Swift's relationships? How has her music connected with you? Share your thoughts, and let's keep this conversation going.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time.